one stock that is about to skyrocket. They recently did a deal with OpenAI, Sam Altman's future $10 trillion company. The scale of this monopoly in the making is unprecedented. OpenAI did a deal with Nvidia, where Nvidia invested in OpenAI, keeping them afloat so they can eventually wean themselves off of Microsoft's servers. Microsoft gets 49% of their revenue for now. Now, OpenAI turned away from Nvidia and said, you know what? We need to diversify away from just Nvidia and away from Microsoft as well. Let's do a deal with AMD. That is the ticker that I think is a good spot to buy right now. OpenAI could get 10% of AMD, which is incredible that they were able to negotiate that. But if your stock price goes up 20 billion and you're going to get 10 billion in revenue from OpenAI paying for their processing power, then everything starts to make sense, even after you have to give up some of your company to ChatGPT and its shareholders. Let's jump into the chart and hit that like button if you want to see more of these videos. I'll talk about that $1,000 guarantee at the end of this video, so stay tuned. This is not financial advice.
This is Sam Putnam.
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 So this is the OpenAI deal. Multi-year agreement, 6 gigawatts. I believe that's quite a lot of watts. And the exchange is 10% of AMD's company. So it's kind of a pretty massive give up for 10%. But at the same time, look at what the stock did on that agreement. It went up 30%. So 10% doesn't seem like such a bad deal anymore. Now, the one challenge with this spot for AMD is earnings. It is Q3 earnings season, but the earnings are actually not for a while. They're in early November. So, 2 weeks is what it is. But I think there's enough time to use this spot that AMD is at to your advantage. And we can talk about the Nvidia deal. We can talk about OpenAI. We can talk about ChatGPT. But if we're being real, the opportunity here is really not about what might happen in the next 5 years. If you have anything less than $1 billion that you're trying to put to work, which, I'm half saying that facetiously because I know it's unlikely that any hedge fund manager managing more than that is going to watch this video. But the point I'm trying to make is look at the relative weakness in Nvidia, in some of these other companies, Palantir, pretty bad weakness even to the market. And then look at AMD compared to the market. So it's down a tiny bit. When you look at what this is, 237 to 228, that's only a couple 3% at max. So when you look at its peers, maybe, it's a little bit dependent on other factors, but these are really not viable for the most part, in my opinion. Whereas when you look at this guy, it's offering a buy spot. And the reason I think this had some strength is you've got, flag setting up here, and I think it pulled back with the market, but definitely held because that flag is still interesting to a lot of other investors. So we can compare all these companies. Intel is another one that is setting up in sort of a similar formation, but you can't really buy because earnings are so close. So yes, this looks, interesting, low risk opportunity to get in maybe after earnings, depending on that result, if that result keeps the price up above this price agreement level. But the only move, in my opinion, is the one that doesn't have earnings for a couple weeks, was already setting up, did give that pullback that's sort of expected after 3 green days in a row, held up, looked like it was giving that breakout opportunity, and then with the market pulling back, didn't go, okay? Market pulled back a lot today at one point. It did close stronger, but it wicked down almost to half of that tariff drop, so that's pretty notable. If the market recovers, and then, definitely if it breaks all-time highs here, AMD is super positioned to get up into these 250s above this high. So definitely want to keep an eye on that. And of course, if we look at a 20-year chart, this is all-time highs. And again, all-time highs, all-time highs in just a couple weeks after that 244 level. So that's enough technical gobbledygook for now, just to make sure we can sort of separate some of these companies. Intel, the government took a 10% stake, which did boost Intel's stock price, but keep in mind Intel was basically left for dead at this point, so it's not really that similar to these Nvidia moves and OpenAI moves is what I meant to say. When you look at some of these OpenAI deals, Broadcom recently did an OpenAI deal, and at this point that sort of OpenAI luster is starting to turn into a nothing burger. There's only so many companies that you can partner with, and eventually you're going to find that the stock prices don't jump up like they were. So this is the deal with OpenAI. This is back about a week ago. This is on the 14th. They're collaborating with Microsoft backed OpenAI. Microsoft obviously wants to retain that control over OpenAI. OpenAI trying to diversify. And yeah, strategic ecosystems shift away from Nvidia is what Broadcom wants. So everyone is trying to jockey for position. This is the agreement, multi-year partnership. And this is ASIC, application specific integrated circuit racks for OpenAI. That is technology that pretty much every big Mag 7 company relies on one way or another. OpenAI is going to be no exception, but we don't have to look into exactly what this networking agreement does for OpenAI, because clearly what the market said was this is not really that notable. And if we look at that spike, yeah, there was a spike, but it got sold into, and then it's almost back to basically where it was before that deal got announced. So the OpenAI deal luster is wearing off. The Walmart spike was significant, but it wasn't crazy. I mean, 5-6%. So I think we're starting to get to the point where it's like, okay, yeah, we get it. They're all agreeing to keep this GDP chugging along, bubble, whatever you want to call it. But until Nvidia turns up from this 50-day moving average, maybe breaks into all-time highs, Nvidia being sort of the leader of the market, not sort of, it literally has the largest 2% about of the market. I don't know that new OpenAI deal news is going to matter that much. Now, with that said, it did kick off this move in AMD, and this AMD move has sustained in a way that Broadcom move didn't, and the way that Walmart move may have been sort of a one-time deal. I don't know how excited investors are about Walmart, given that the benefit is maybe more to Walmart than to, OpenAI. Whereas with AMD, you could say that, AMD could also be propping up OpenAI, given that they're making the semis, which basically allow OpenAI to exist at all. Without massive processing power, they literally cannot function, but they can definitely function without Walmart. So that's the technical setup. That's a little bit of the context around recent OpenAI deals and movements in share prices that I think is relevant. And if you like these ideas, hit that like button. If you want to see more, hit that subscribe on YouTube. And if you want to take your investing to the next level, we have a guarantee where if you don't make $1,000 in stocks in the first 90 days at stockscommunity.com, you get your money back. $750 back in your pocket. You can head over to stockscommunity.com to see why I make that guarantee. The limitation is that you do need $25,000 to invest. You need that amount anyway to make more than 3 investments in a 5-day period, which is helpful to know that you can close out an investment if you need to. So this is not financial advice, but I think that's a pretty awesome deal, and I want you to succeed. See ya soon, one way or the other.
This is Sam Putnam.
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 This is Sam Putnam.